Welcome to selfdiscoveryradio.com, where the orchard of wisdom is just ready for picking. We celebrate your why, the journey that you've taken that inspires someone else. We support your services, we support your story. Come and be our guest, become a host, be an author with us. Come see what we've got. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Channeling Ascensions. I am Sarah Troy, and my co-host is Christina Hill with her beautiful entity, Athella, and our guest today is Mark Anthony. I do apologize for the sound quality. No matter what I do, I'm unable to rectify it. The content is wonderful. Please do stay with us.
The psychic lawyer and everything that is manifested from that, and of course he's out there a great deal in all of the medias. You've probably seen him on many shows, and we're delighted to have him here with us today, sharing yet again another lovely perspective. You're not going to see him on video, you're just going to see a beautiful picture of him when he talks.
But he looks quite good there. You look great, yes, in that picture with the nature behind you, Mark.
Well, thank you. You know, it was such a great day because that picture, it's funny. I'll go for a photo shoot, and then they'll take all these pictures, and they're like, that picture was a total accident.
Oh, yeah.
I was in Seattle at the Japanese Gardens.
I know where that is. I'm
it's
from
beautiful.
Seattle. Yes, beautiful.
Yeah, and it was just this incredibly beautiful day, and I sat down. We were walking around, and my shoe came untied, and I was tying my shoe, and my manager goes, "Hey, Mark," and I looked at her and go, "Yeah," and she took a picture, and I'm like, "Oh my God, this is like..." So.
And that's the reason I chose that picture, because I just see kind of the glow and the warmth and the naturalness of it, because sometimes we do get caught up in the professional photographs, and au natural, capturing the moment in the light is really sometimes the best representation. And it's a great picture, as you know, as we said, having you on the show before here, Mark, you know, sharing your experiences. For the audience that hasn't listened to that show, will you give us a little bit of your background so people actually understand who you are and where we're going today?
Well, sure. It's funny because every time I'm introduced as the psychic lawyer, eyebrows start to raise because people tend to think that, you know, well, both of you understand the prejudices and the associations, stereotypes people make about psychics. You know, that we wear turbans, use tarot cards, and you know, tell people what they want to hear. And then, of course, everyone knows that all lawyers are sociopathic, vampiric, blood-sucking, soulless monsters, and they go, well, how do you reconcile the two? Well, first off, psychics are human beings, and we have insights, and lawyers, believe it or not, most of them are pretty decent people. Unfortunately, the profession tends to draw a lot of very aggressive people to it, and truth and justice have very little to do with the system. It becomes, I'm going to win. And the other side wants to win, and so it turns into this very contentious thing. And let's face it, when you go to a lawyer, is it because, hey, everything in my life is going great, or is it because you got hurt, you got sued, you got arrested, you want to get a divorce? I mean, people generally go to lawyers when they're not having the best of times in their lives. Be that as it may, both of my parents had psychic abilities. My mother was a very accomplished psychic medium. It runs in the family for generations on both sides. And I bet in both of your families there have been other psychics and mediums, because it appears from what I've seen and from my colleagues, the scientists who study this, it appears to be a recessive genetic trait. In other words, like left-handedness, or like in my family, you know, it's my family, most people have brown eyes, but there occasionally is someone with blue eyes. Ergo, that's a recessive trait. So both of my parents had this recessive trait, and the likelihood then of one of the offspring inheriting the psychic and mediumistic abilities is increased exponentially. So I came along, and at about age 3, I start talking about the people and my invisible friends. And the cool thing is, both mom and dad could see them too. So they were like, mom was like, "Oh, this is great." My dad was like, "Oh God," you know, because, well, his family, my mom's family, they were of Italian descent, and they looked at psychic ability as a gift from God, and they called it the gift of second sight. Whereas on my dad's side of the family, they were from Pennsylvania, but they were Baptists, Northern Baptists, and they looked at it not necessarily as a sinister thing, but as something you don't necessarily publicize. Yeah, you don't talk about it. And it's funny because my dad, he was like terrified when he was a boy. He used to have to go down to the basement and shovel coal into the furnace, and he'd hear these voices, and these entities would talk to him. Now, even as a boy, he knew that hearing voices was not a good thing, and it used to disturb him. And then his mother always, she and one of his sisters, Marjorie, used to have, quote unquote, the girls over for bridge on Thursday afternoons. Well, one time he said he was about 13 and he was listening through the door, and they weren't playing bridge. They were conducting readings and seances, and Dad was like, "Oh my God, you too!" And so then, they talk about it. It's really kind of funny,
Yeah.
and permission.
So, So when he got out of the Navy, he met my mom at a USO dance, and they totally clicked right away. And they dated, and she said, "Well, there's something you need to know about me." And he's like, "Oh, dear Lord." And she goes, "Oh, is this a deal breaker?" He goes, "No, I kind of do this too." So I grew up in this environment where seeing spirits and getting intuitive feelings about future events was not an unusual or a strange thing. And having been raised in the Catholic faith, I really wanted to go into the clergy, and I don't think it's unusual for those of us with psychic abilities to be drawn to.
That's true.
Yeah, because we want to do something with it. But I found pretty quickly that what I felt, what I believed, and what I knew radically conflicted with the unnecessary rules and regulations of a dogmatic belief system. How's that for being diplomatic? Okay, so the Catholic Church had too many rules, so I ended up in law instead. Go figure that one. I guess karma, okay, you're going to do that.
Contradictory.
Yes.
So that is basically it in a nutshell. So here I am.
Right. And I love the fact that, your parents, both had this, the cloak and dagger of it. You're saying that at the age of 3, you came into realization that you were, talking, quote, quote, to dead people. I loved that movie Signs. It was like, yay, people alive can kind of get it. I grew up that way as well, but my family couldn't see them. And I couldn't understand why they couldn't see them. How come I could see them? What was, I didn't kind of click that there was something different with me. I just thought there was something wrong with them, that they couldn't see them. But it is something that you can't necessarily talk about with other people because, the old white coat's coming to take you away, haha. Or that you're just an oddball or there's something wrong with you. It's very confusing because, why is this happening that feels so right? There doesn't feel anything evil about it. There doesn't feel anything wrong about it. The vibration is so beautiful, but other people are so judgmental, and obviously it must be the devil talking to you.
Yeah, that gets really tiresome. People say, well, it's in the Bible, and I respect everybody's belief system, but, people, I love it when they say, well, mediums are not of God, and they quote the passage, I think it's in Leviticus and Deuteronomy. If you want to find a way to judge somebody or a moral justification to cast the first stone and really get on somebody's case, Leviticus and Deuteronomy are the books for you. And it's hilarious because people will say, well, I'm a Christian and I don't believe that because mediums are not of God. And it's like, when's the last time you had bacon, ham, or sausage? Or pulled pork? Well, I had bacon for breakfast and pulled pork for dinner. That's an abomination. And according to Leviticus and Deuteronomy, that is evil, and you must not do that. Oh, by the way, has your daughter ever been menstruating when she walked into a house of God? Well, that's it. Well, she's supposed to be put to death for doing that. And if your neighbor works on the Sabbath, he is to be put to death. Okay, so if you take everything literally, that means, let's say your neighbor... There won't
be anybody left.
Yeah, there wouldn't. Let's say your neighbor's a real estate agent and he showed a house on Sunday and he comes home. This means you're supposed to go over and shoot him in the head. Okay, look, we know we know that that's not, people are not going to do that. And the problem is that in Leviticus and Deuteronomy, if you look at don't eat pork, eat kosher, in a pre-refrigeration society, eating like kosher Jews and the way the Muslims do will keep you alive. You don't eat pork because you won't get trichinosis. You don't mix shellfish because it spoils. You get food poisoning. You don't put dairy on plates with other food because of the spoilation. Kosher salt existed to preserve foods. So there is a logical basis for that. Where it gets into mediums are not of God is that, well, we've created this belief system and we don't want anyone developing a personal rapport with God because you need to come to God through us and us only, and if you don't, then you're going to go to this place that we invented called hell. And so that's why, while I respect other people's belief systems, the afterlife, God, eternity is so far beyond these dogmas written by men for men to subjugate women and keep men in power. How they depict it. I mean, look at how women are treated in the Bible. Look at how Islam treats women. Look at how Judaism treats women. I mean, for the most part, dogmatic belief systems, men are the primary gender, and women are shoved into second-class status.
Submissives, yeah.
It's very human mind driven. All of it, all of this that I'm talking about is very egoic based. You know, it certainly shows the evolution of thinking mind over the course of, you know, the millennium. but really, I think the thing that we're touching on here is that we're looking towards stuff that's created with human minds and from human perspective, to describe something that is beyond and that we can't really describe using language, something that's in the fifth dimension and higher dimensions even. I don't believe that there's a book that exists that could accurately depict or tell us about this quote-unquote afterlife, if we even want to call it that. I don't believe that there is. I don't believe that we can even really, honestly, have a conversation about it. It's something that we can feel and go into with our non-egoic self and as an experience, and we can touch that eternity. It's the quality of that. And I mean, Mark, you understand this, Sarah, you understand it, because we do this in our own process. But it's important to say too that while also respecting everyone's beliefs, those are beliefs. That's exactly what they are. They are thoughts, they're texts, they're things that are created with the brain, the human mind, which has, in my opinion, has nothing to do with the afterlife or the ethereal, you know, the energy realm that we're talking, the overtones of, you know, the upper echelon dimensional realm doesn't have anything to do with something that we can think with our head. We try, right? Because we're having this conversation now. But certainly I feel that it's in experiences, when we're touched with these experiences, that we have these openings and we cannot explain it. It's something that we touch and we feel, but yet we can't really, you know, describe it with the human brain. That's my understanding of it.
It's very hard to actually explain it to someone who is not or has not experienced it, who is not open-minded enough to allow it for that experience, because every single one of us channels, every single one of us has these experiences, but people deny them. You know, the thing like deja vu, we've got this feeling you've met somebody before, there's something that's, you know, speaking to you, not quite sure what it is. But because of, you know, the teachings and the dogma and the restrictive thinking of how you should, and if you go out of that realm, now you're, you know, going to the hell side of things, you know, we're restricted in our thinking. And of course that was by design. Keep human beings in this nice little pen and don't allow them to open up to what really is out there, because that beautiful energy that we tap into, the messages from people who have gone on, left body, is actually what it's all about. It's who we are. And that connection is as normal as it is of us talking right now. But, you know, people are so fearful from it, from what you said earlier, Mark. So how do we get people out of that thinking and trust that message they had from Uncle Joe that passed over 10 years ago is actually real? You know, because when you open up those channels, all sorts of people are going to come through.
Yeah, they are. And I think that Christina did a very good job of articulating how it's very difficult with our human ego-based brain in trying to understand something that's beyond our five physical senses. And you know, our perception, our brain is the product of a finite mechanism. In other words, the human brain, which governs our five physical senses, is finite. Yet our soul, our spirit, the electromagnetic energy that operates within our brain is infinite. So we're trying to understand infinity through a finite perspective. Yes. Albert Einstein said it best, I think. He said, trying to understand infinity in the universe is like a 4-year-old walking into a library. And the 4-year-old sees all the books, knows that there's things written in the books, knows that somebody wrote the books, but doesn't understand what's in them. Yes. So we can know that it's there, but that doesn't mean that we understand it to a great or level. It's like
meant to understand everything. We're not meant to understand every book in the library. You know how we talk about when you need to know something, you can walk into a bookshop and there's a book that's going to speak to you. That's what you need to know in that moment. So it's the same with the library. It's the same with that beautiful library in the universe. When you need to know something, that sense of knowingness, and you open up to that knowledge, you will know what you need to know when you need to know it. This thing about we've got to understand every book in the library to actually understand the meaning of life, you know, codswallop. You've just got to understand which book is for you at this present moment and open up to the knowledge.
Perfect.
Yes.
I love that. Yeah, that's a very good way of looking at it.
If I may, I want to interject this too. I have this bouquet of flowers here. Today I was looking at it and you can see the life emanating from it, right? So as I look at this, I'm just going to put this here in the camera so we can, isn't that beautiful?
Yes, it is.
Look at that splendor. I mean, that, and we're really looking at the tinges here at the very end, every single petal being so different and unique. And you feel the aliveness behind it. But what happens then is this crumbles away, right? It turns into another form and then goes back into the earth, basically, as organic material. But the essence of it doesn't disappear. And I feel like today's session guided energy flow that we're doing here is like we're talking about something that is eternal. We're talking about ourselves, the true self, and that that which we cannot describe, that floats up and out, ejects. When the body is done, what happens then? And like what that is, because there's a lot of fear. There's so much freaking fear that keeps us in these fear waves. And I just feel like there's a re-education of soul that's happening on the planet now, where we're coming at it like we're eternal, and just like in nature, nothing ever goes anywhere. Like everything is always
nothing's wasted.
Yes.
Nothing's ever wasted.
And we don't ever disappear, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we can't be. We must calm ourselves and be soothed. And I feel like this is why Athella's work has been so pertinent now on the planet, is to help, in sort of in a grandmotherly way, right? To soothe our central nervous system and our nerves, and to present some calming energy, so that we can step away from the fear shadow that says that, you know, that we're just done for when we leave the body, that death is an ending, that there's suffering, all of these stories associated with it, depending upon how we were raised and how we were conditioned. When in actuality, we can look to things like the plants, our animals and things to help us, assist us in connecting to our oneness while we're still in the body, right? We can practice that death before you actually die.
Yes.
Which is a great movement. It's a great practice to do this so that we're able to take our passage, our transition much more fluidly, much more peacefully.
Well, we're going to have many, many deaths in our life before our transition. And the transition is just exiting the vessel and taking the spirit on, and either we come back or we're out there or we become guardians or maybe we ascend higher. It all depends on what level we're at. But we're going to have so many deaths along the way because there's a death of a situation, a death of a lifestyle. You know, maybe something else has happened in your life to bring an ending to something. And if we stop being so fearful of each end of that chapter, and just rather look more excited to what the next chapter is going to be in our book of life, you know, we won't be so fearful of everything around us, because when we are exploratory creatures, when we decide to look at life as an adventure, we then open up to all of these things. And then, you know, what you're talking about, you know, I talk to dead people, Mark, is, oh, you too, what does yours have to say? Imagine that beautiful conversation if we opened up to this.
Well, and I could not agree with you more, Sarah, but and I want to say this for the listeners who may not be as familiar with afterlife research and spirit communication. Yes, life is an adventure and we should not fear death, but for people who are suffering with depression and suicidal thoughts, we certainly don't want to encourage them to intentionally cut their lives short, because going through the difficulties and the depression and the bad times it appears we're supposed to be doing this. And the reason for that is that on the other side, when we leave this body, we transfer to a higher frequency and we revert back to a purely energetic state. Energy never gets old, never gets tired, never gets sick, it never gets depressed. And it appears that we come into a series of incarnations in this particular dimension to experience things that we cannot when we're in purely energetic form. So even though you may be sitting there and you feel that your life is like you're sinking into a tar pit and everything is miserable and depressing and terrible, in the bigger scheme of things, there may be a reason why you're going through that. Now, I'm not being callous about that, because, you know, I mean, the joke I make is the problem with depression is it's so depressing, you know, because it's debilitating and it makes it very difficult to enjoy life. And certainly those who are suffering from it should seek professional help with medications and counseling to learn to cope with it. So coming into this existence is not necessarily supposed to be all peaches and cream.
No.
I mean, it's real easy to watch the royal wedding. All right, I have to admit, I was watching the royal wedding. Group of us got together and we're sitting there, and this one lady said, "Wow, that's every girl's dream, but it's her reality." And then we're thinking, yeah, but once the pageantry is over, there's still life. Okay, so it's easy to look at like Harry and what's her name, Meghan Markle, or William and Kate Middleton, and think, isn't that wonderful? But then again, for them, they have the curse of being intensely famous. I mean, it's not like they can just go. Yeah, they can't just walk down the street or say, "Oh, I want to pop in there and have a tea or a coffee," without the paparazzi and everybody being all over them. So for whatever reason, those people are dealing with that. And we saw like somebody like Princess Diana, how incredibly destructive it was to her life. See a lot of these movie stars, film stars that turn to the drug addictions and the problems because they can't cope. Margot Kidder died recently. Lois Lane. I mean, my gosh, she played Lois Lane to Christopher Reeve's Superman, and then she found out she was bipolar and ended up living on the streets. So we go through these series of lifetimes so that we can experience things, and it appears that it has some type of relationship to the frequency that we go into on the other side. And so And my understanding is we go through a series of lifetimes until we're done with this planet. And then we go, wherever it is we go. But the journey of life is energy is never created nor destroyed, only transferred. So we transfer then to another dimension and begin a new cycle.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, a fella that may or may not join us today, it's always up to her, actually is an entity that is not from Earth, but she's chosen Christina as her channel to speak through, and she comes in and she's really a no-nonsense person, and she gets even a little bit more frisky every time she comes through. Actually, it's really interesting, and kind of talks to us of where we need to be. But one of the things, and you talked about depression, and I'm a person that suffered through life. It's always been a bit of a challenge. But what is depression? It's a feeling of hopelessness, of not being able to see the future, not understanding where you are right now. It's feeling trapped. And if we had that thread of keeping those channels open, finding what is it? Is it meditation? Is it with nature? What is it that opens up our channel? And step into that channel when we feel like that. We're keeping that door open. Because when your door is open to that universal energy, it then floods in. And then you can see more clearly the path that is before you. And you're more able to walk it because the clarity is there. So I think this is again back to our chapters of life. Don't give in to the feeling that you're in at the moment. It's an invitation to open up that thread, that channel. Because this is just one of your obstacles that you've got to climb over. And I know, I've been there, I know how despairing it is, I know how crippling it is, but I learned that I had to make myself proactive in order to get through it. You can't go around it or under it, go through it, so that I could actually understand why I was there, or even just immerse myself in the other channel. So I think those are our chapters in life. What we get through is how do we go through something, what do we learn from it, what knowledge do we apply on our journey of life that also can help others along the way?
Yes.
For me, that's what the meaning of life is, the experience, so we can ascend to that higher vibration.
Yeah, I want to chime in here too. Is ascension to the higher vibration is possible no matter how down in the depths at the very lower rung you have been in. And I'm a testament to this too, as well as Sarah, and I think Mark, you may also identify with this too. It's like we get to these troughs, these places where we're in a crater and we're up at to our eyeballs, and there's depression and addictions, and I mean, coming from the background that I've come from, you really feel like you've been through the gamut of all of it. And in my sense, my understanding of this game that we're in, the life game, is that for us, it's important that we look at the spiritual core root cause of what it is that are going on. Some of the addictions especially, having been formerly addicted to all kinds of things and fear, phobias, fears, all kinds of freaky, weird fears of everything, and having been paralyzed and crippled by violence and just ungodly things, unspeakable things, is like we're going to get to the core spiritual lesson. And as Sarah suggested, we go through it. I think it's important to mention too that as we're in the thick of it, it is very important to realize that we're going through a very important spiritual lesson. And that may sound like unicorns and fluffery, but honestly, coming from someone who's been there, if you look around, you're going to see signs that, okay, this is a spiritual situation that I'm going through. There are lessons here that I need to learn. And I actually feel, when I met Athella, she healed my mind, body. I had disease in the body, was mentally unstable, was institutionalized, homeless, and had no place of my own, no family, and was shunned by my family because of my gifts, and that's a whole another show. But really the gist of it is that, like, absolutely addicted to pills, alcohol, sex, all kinds of things, all at the same time. And I tried every single recovery group, every single pill there is to take. And I still couldn't find any peace, no reason to live or stay in this body. So for people who have been there, I understand that completely. You come at a crossroads and you feel as though you are done. So it's important to say too that from my experience working with Athella, and as a child even, when you exit the body early, you do take on whatever it is that you take that with you, whatever suffering, pain.
The baggage goes with you.
Exactly. So there is no real strategy for exit, whereas we feel like, okay, I'm going to get out of this now, I'm just going to check out. It's actually a myth or some kind of urban legend that it's a farce to say that you're just going to get out of the body and then not carry it with you. But in fact, if you can go through it, and find your way, your methods. I believe that there are plenty of methods out there that do not call for medication. There's plenty. We're learning so much in science about retraining our brain, neuroscience, neuroplasticity, all of it, and the spiritual component added to that. Powerful. We can absolutely resculpt and reshape our life. And in doing so, we can step into our higher ascension, our higher self, and see it as a spiritual walk, because that's what it is. That's what it is. We also have...
And with the help of... Yes. I mean, you have Athella's help.
I was just going to say that. We have help.
And that's the thing, Mark, you've communicated with many people, from, quote, the other side, just for the sake of actually understanding life, out of body. And I know you do it a lot in your work, Mark, but what about your personal journey of the communication to people? Do you have somebody that walks with you through life, that guides you?
Oh, absolutely. I have several spirit guides, but there is one in particular that's been with me my entire life. And I refer to him as a he. It's rather long and complicated to explain this, but I describe him as an angelic entity. And I've seen him in one form or another my entire life. And then I remember when I was meditating, it was probably about but more like 20 years ago. And he came through and I said, wow, you look very familiar. And he goes, well, I should, And I can only describe him as an angel. And he explained to me that we have many, spirit guides, but we have one in particular that's with us from womb to tomb. And the other ones will sort of switch out over time. And I simply refer to him as Francis. I don't know why I call him Francis. And I asked him one time, I go, well, is that your name? He goes, well, that's a name you can relate to, because what and who I really am, you couldn't even begin to comprehend, much less pronounce.
Yes. I've heard this before from Athella too. Yes, exactly. Yeah. The names are for us. They're for us.
Well, what was funny is one time I was home alone. It was near Christmas, and so I had a Christmas tree, and I thought, well, I'm going to meditate in front of the Christmas tree. I thought, how cool is that? So I turned off all the lights in the house. It was just the Christmas lights. I'm meditating, and all of a sudden, in my mind's eye, I feel Santa Claus walks in.
Wow.
And then it morphs into my guide. He goes, well, it is Christmas. And I started laughing, and I realized that angels have a sense of humor.
Oh, yeah.
They have a sense of humor. I know people think they walk around like strumming harps. Going, yeah. And the same thing with spirits. They come in like, oh. When a spirit communicates, they bring with them personality traits, likes and dislikes, identifiers, so we can figure out who they are. But it doesn't mean they still have their hang-ups and neuroses and all of this, but we can define them through that. I had a hilarious situation. I was doing a group reading in New York City, and there was this elderly woman on the front row, and the evening came to a close. Said any questions, and the woman goes, I want a reading. I didn't get a reading. He didn't come through. Why the heck didn't he come through? And all of a sudden I hear in my mind's ear, I had enough of her when I was there.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God. I mean, what do you say? How do you say it? She goes, where the hell is he?
Oh my goodness.
Ouch. Tonight wasn't the night he was supposed to make contact. And she was just going on and on and on. And it's not that he didn't love her, but it's like he didn't feel it was necessary to make contact. Also, a lot of people that don't experience communication with a loved one after they pass, sometimes too much desire. I want this. I want. Why don't they come through?
Yes.
They put all angst.
That doesn't open doors. It closes channels down.
It's like during a reading when I get evidence, and I don't know how you guys do it, but I'll say I'm getting this. Does that make sense? And I tell people avoid going directly to no, because no, 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 no. All it does is creates negative energy. Because a lot of times you need to reflect on it and think about it afterwards. And then of course, then there's the people that overanalyze everything. Something comes in and they hyperanalyze it to the nth degree.
Yes.
If it hits you right away, that's it. If it doesn't make sense, make a note of it, and then you can hyperanalyze it after the reading. Like I was doing a reading recently, and I started seeing a bunch of gold coins, and I say, "Does that make sense?" No. Are you sure? No, 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 no. And then 10 minutes later, I start seeing Argyle socks. Now, how weird is that? I go to Argyle. No, 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 no. I know when I'm getting good stuff. Okay, I know when I'm getting good information, so I just let it go. And then a couple days after the reading, I received an email, and the woman said I was going through an old dresser drawer, and I found this Argyle sock filled with gold coins. It belonged to my father. And I'm like, hey, does he have one for me too? So, and she goes, this is great. And it's like, not only did she get validation, but what a wonderful surprise, for her to find. And that's why during evidential mediumship, if you say things like, I'm getting gold coins, instead of shooting it down, say, well, let me think about it. I'm getting Argyle socks. Instead of laughing or making sense about it, making fun of it, let it lie, because it very well will unfold and make sense later on. And I'm sure we all have lots of examples of this. I get this a lot in medical. I tell people, you need to get this checked. Oh, I'm fine. And then I get an email, oh my God, this, was the problem.
But you can't come to people like us for information and then dictate how the information should be given or what information is given. All we're doing, is we're that conduit, that channel. We're bringing the information to you from that higher realm. For it to make sense, you have to let it sit with you. It's now for you to open up your own psyche, let it sit there, and the realization of what it means will come to you. But the human condition is always to dictate. No, I want it this way. No, it's got to say this. It's got to do that. Where's Prince Charming? I'm not interested in the Argyle socks. I want the man that went with it. The whole thing is get out of dictatorship. And I actually have a feeling that we might be having Athella coming through in a moment, because Christina's getting into poise there.
Yeah, I'm seeing it and feeling it. But, to follow up on that, Sarah, I love what you said. People that start dictating to me, well, usually because my staff handles organizing and scheduling the readings, I have a way of doing things. When they start dictating terms, and you will do this, and you will do that, and you will do it for this, and you need to do it for free, and you need this, and we don't even schedule them. We just let them go.
Yeah.
Because then during the reading, they start acting like that.
Okay, we have Athella here now.
Yes, there is a barrier. Good for you, true soul, to hold up the gate. Only those that are needing the information and are open in the heart space and are willing to accept that the result may not fit with their agenda. Those are the ones you sit with. And those that can open their hearts with gratitude rather than expectation energy. The expectation energy, I believe this is what we are talking on. I see this in humans. You humans, you ask and demand. You place demands upon those that cannot be seen and the universe. Presumptuous. Allow life to dance through you. Allow the information to be funneled to you and accept it as is. Take the information, gauge within yourself if it is true. If you illuminate within, the inner lights of the Christmas tree go on, you will know it is true. If you sense it is wrong, toss it. You don't need it. We have these conduits here. Those who have volunteered to be of service while in the human vehicle during their time on Earth. They have opened themselves up. It is very much like opening up bed and breakfast. Come on in, stay, and I will share with you all of my goodies. When you are rest, when you are satisfied, full, then you may leave, taking the experience with you. Psychics and mediums, those who have chosen to be conduit for channeling, they have opened their house. Please respect them, humans. Know that if you cannot speak to Elvis or to Janis Joplin, or at the drop of a hat you cannot speak to your dog who has transitioned, this is all because it is not the time. It is simply not needed. And it may go against your human brain agenda. This thing, this phenomenon of beings, light beings, angels, you call them archangels, angels, spirits, those who have transitioned, this thing exists whether or not the brain believes it. The care of the body for those that are conduits is very, very important. It is paramount to care for your own house, to put up the proper gates, and to have gatekeepers. And Mark, I see you have attended nicely to this. Good system, good organization, good barriers, and to take care of the self. All of you are doing so well. Every human walking in its own way. At the bottom of it all, humans, they just want to feel love and secure. You are safe, humans. You are safe. Nothing will happen to you. Even if you pass out of the body, you are still safe and loved. Spend as much time as humanly possible in love's vibration. You know how to do this. I love you. You are surrounded by light. There is no need for complexity. Just feel love. Feel this light.
Another lovely teaching from Athella. Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, that was great. Loved it.
Lovely. Thank you.
And
Beautiful.
what Athella said, Mark, it is the people around you. We have to put certain people or barriers or boundaries around us because, of course, when you are channeling that lovely divine entity, it's not the other side, quote, the energy that we need to worry about. It's when we open that up, it's the people who wish to use that for wrong reasons that we need to protect ourselves from. And so how do you, Mark, protect yourself before you go into a session?
Well, I always meditate and I pray, and I always do this affirmation: I'm a clear channel for God's love, light, and peace, love, and light. And the way I do it is, remember, on Star Trek when they go on the transporter and that beam of light? Yes. I kind of envision it like that. You know what I mean?
Beam me up.
Beam me up. It's like this beam of white light, or you can envision it as like a shower head, but it's white light instead of water. I prefer the transporter myself.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah, so I envision like the white light going through me, and when I meditate, I envision white light cleansing all of my cells, and I do that, and I ask God, and see, I use the word God, but a lot of people like to call Source, Spirit, whatever you want to call.
Actually, Mark, we have Reverend Charles Edwardus, who came up with a beautiful terminology. He calls it GUS, God, Universe, Spirit, which I love the terminology GUS.
Put it all together.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it, and I ask God to send forth spirits for the highest of purposes to bring messages of love, healing, and resolution. And I would say that 98 to 99% of the time, the people I work with are just a joy to work with.
Yes.
It's that 1 to 2% that no matter what you do, they're going to be unhappy, and it makes me think of. One of my favorite movies, if not my favorite movie of all time, was the Monty Python movie, The Life of Brian.
I love that one.
Yeah, he was spoof on biblical ethics, and so Brian's walking through the streets, and there's all the beggars, and one of them goes, coins for an ex-leper, coins for an ex-leper. And he goes, ex-leper? How did you get to be an ex-leper? He goes, well, I was sitting here minding my own business, earning a living, and Jesus came and cured me. And he goes, he did. He goes, yeah, now I'm out of work. And he said, he goes, well, why don't you just go back and ask Jesus to turn you back into a leper? He goes, well, leprosy is rather a pain in the ass. So I was thinking maybe he could just give me a limp or something like that. And he goes, all right, well, here, and he gives him a coin, and he goes, half a denari. And Brian says, wow, some people are never happy. And then he looks and goes, that's just what Jesus said. And that is that's the only really serious line in the entire film. And I had the honor of seeing John Cleese, and he was talking about that. And he said that they could not get funding for the movie because the BBC wouldn't give it to them, and they said this is sacrilegious. And the ex-Beatle George Harrison happened to know somebody with the Monty Python group, and he took a look at the script, and he says, I really like this. He goes, I'll come up with the money for it on one condition. They said, what? He says, you can make fun of religion all you want, but you cannot insult or make fun of God. And that line right there just really brought it home. They're spoofing biblical epics, and people took it into context. But what it was is that some people are never happy with anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I did a reading for this woman, and her son came through his beautiful messages. A week later, she wanted another reading, but she only wanted 15 minutes because she needed to ask the following questions to clarify this. And I tried to explain to her, this is not texting or instant messaging.
No.
I know. We don't.
Not on Instagram.
Yeah, it's not Instagram. We don't text the other side so you will tell us this.
And you don't know what's going to come through, right?
That's true.
No
right
idea.
there. You have no idea.
Right, and maybe her son won't show up next time, and then it'll be like, well, you're horrible, and blah, blah, blah. Well, and then she demands another reading. And I say, I want people to wait at least 6 months in between readings. And that, for the listeners, that's how you tell a fraud medium and a parasitic psychic when they convince you that there's a negative energy attached to your auric field, you're haunted, you're cursed, and you need to come 4 to 5 times a week at $500 a clip to get rid of this nonsense, because that's nonsense.
I couldn't agree more. That is absolutely...
Well, no matter what, this woman will not let up. She wants her reading sooner. So finally, my assistant said, I'm sorry, but, we're going to have to cancel this. Oh, it's all about money with you. Well, if it was all about money, we would have been saying come 6 times a week. And those we're telling you, no, I don't want to do this, because nothing will satisfy her. Okay? And
it will never be the right answer that she's looking for, right?
Yeah, it won't be. I mean, I was doing a reading for this one lady. She goes, well, I haven't heard the one thing that I will know.
I've heard that as well.
My son. And it's like, okay, the 50 facts that are right on point. His name, what he looked like, what he died from, what you had for dinner last night. I mean, all of this stuff. Yes, but we had a secret code word. And it's like, so when you put that I want, what you're doing is that desirous energy, and it's just what Athella, is that your
Yes, that's Athella. Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's what Athella was talking about, is like the positive energy. But when you go in and pollute it with I want this, it's like, yeah, I really wish. And then when the cynics say, well, until a medium wins the lottery, I won't leave them.
Right.
Well, no one wants to win the lottery more than we do, so we don't have to put up with people. Okay, but this gift is not to be used to go to Vegas and pick out what roulette number is going to win or power numbers. I mean, and I certainly put it out there. If my mom or my dad on the other side just happens to want to give me the Powerball numbers, I promise I'll do good with it.
Yes.
But I also know that is not what this is about.
Yes,
well, let me finish and then I'll let you go. Spirits couldn't care less about money.
No.
Okay, so you go ahead, Christina.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Well, I would have followed that up too. I think spirit is for our evolution. Spirit is for us, and spirit is waiting for us to tell the forms of life, right? Money, car, relationships, the life that we're living. Spirit is waiting for us, or universe is really waiting for us to place our order and wants all those things. Like abundance is our birthright. So we're not here to suffer and be limited and to have all these ideas,
sacrificial things.
That's really, those are the old paradigms that were given to us, from our caretakers, and it's no one's fault. As Athella says, there's no one to blame. It simply is that we're now in charge of our lives. We're in the driver's seat now, and the forms, they come and go, just like the body is a form. It's going to come and go. And the money and things like this. But you touched on something, Mark. I wanted to say, when I went on Coast to Coast, I had a colleague that I was working with when I first met Athella. And there was a bunch of people that flew in from Berlin and all over to come and see me and meet with Athella. And they kind of poked and prodded at me to find out about what level of trance I was in, or what was really happening, what was going on, because Athella would meet with people and say things to them that they needed, information for them, or healing, on the spot, direct healing. And so when I was working with this individual, we went on Coast to Coast with George Norrie, and there was the partner that I was with at the time, the one I was working with, was really dead set on winning the lottery and utilizing Athella to make this happen. Now, nobody else knew about this, but when we were on the show, I felt like this was something that one of our listeners was going to call in and ask about, and sure enough, they did. And so the question was brought up, if this stuff is all real, why don't you go and move that chair? Actually, Athella has moved a chair, by the way. I have 2 witnesses who saw it. But it was something it was a test, and it was something that she wanted me to see doesn't require any effort or energy. There's no force. You got to sit there, telekinesis, and bend your mind and all this strain, that it's effortless. The universe is effortless, and spirit and our guides, they actually don't care about moving things. It's like piddly-doo for them.
They're not here to prove anything.
It's not for entertainment. Right? That's the thing. This is not for, it's really for the raising of the vibration of the planet. So I figured that out the hard way. I started working with this individual not knowing, and then figuring out, the intention that was set here is someone who's really wanting to have personal gain. There's nothing wrong with having wealth. When we put our ego inside of that, and that the wealth becomes who we are, and that is our driving force, that's where the line is crossed. And I've seen that with other people, other clients, not so much these days, but when I first began, there was a lot of that, where just people coming in from all places with these ideas of, I want this, I would, I'd like this, and this. I didn't get this, so therefore that X, Y, Z.
You're not real.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like that's a phenomenon now that's in my work now these days. I don't see that as often. I feel like the global consciousness now is growing. I have a lot of high hope for humanity. I really do. People are changing now. They're catching on to this.
Yeah.
And they're realizing now, becoming more awakened, that the primary of our existence, is to be in this high vibrational place all the time, and to have that continuity, and to learn, and to have fun, and to grow, and to experience and taste life. to be open then to have information flood in as it's appropriate and needed, but not to go in and say, I want me, I, all in the ego game.
Well, the thing about abundance and enrichment is that it is of the spirit and the soul and the heart. When you step into the enrichment and the abundance of heart, soul, and spirit as one, you are not only connected to the universe, your channel is always open, but you're always enriched. Now, it may not match your bank account. In my case, most certainly not. But it's okay. It will be one day. Whatever I need will be provided. But I feel incredibly enriched and abundant in what I do and who I am and what I stand for and what I have got to give, because this is my gift to give. And as Mark is yours, Christina, yours is yours. When we choose to step into and embrace that beautiful purpose and understand the service of it to mankind, and that you are again part of the orchestra and creating that beautiful symphony, now you really actually understand what that true cosmic vibration is really all about. And the answers that you get to the questions that you don't even need to ask are always going to be there. We have to get out of our human condition and embrace that spiritual divine presence, that godness that is us. And then we will actually understand what we are talking about. Anybody can do if they can get out of the human conditioning of it. I'm sure, Mark, you've seen a great deal of this.
Oh, I have. And, yes, the world is changing, but there's still a lot of resistance, and there's still a huge segment of people clinging to dogmatic belief systems that are incredibly hostile to anything that we do. And then there's the religion of atheism and cynicism, where people tell me, well, you can't talk to the dead. And it's like, by all means, please explain to me your vast understanding of the afterlife and how it relates to electromagnetic energy on the quantum field. And they're like, huh? It's like, it's like, well, I can't understand it, so therefore it doesn't exist.
Exactly.
And I think that's part of what we're always going to have to put up with. I think
when people are ready, the teacher will arrive, right? When people are coming to you twofold. One, I think, is to truly open up and want to really hear the information and accept what you're saying as a gift. And then other people coming with an expectation for you to fulfill something they want to know, and if you don't, then you're not the real deal. And that's the thing, is step into your gift, keep your volume up on your gift, and those that really do utterly understand, they don't need to know how it works. Do we know how our cars work? We know we have to put oil and gas and other fluids in it to make it go. Do we know every mechanic about it? No, but we trust the vehicle when we get into it. Why can't we trust these other vehicles? We don't need to understand everything. All we need to do is step into it and allow it to happen to us, and allow it to receive from it without this dictation agenda or prove it to me.
Yes.
Well, what's interesting in the field of near-death experience studies, there will be somebody who has a near-death experience, and all of a sudden they become famous, they make a movie based on their life, and everybody believes them based on this one subjective experience, even though I believe that, because I've had a near-death experience, both my parents did, and I am a firm believer in the reality of near-death experiences. But they will be given the red carpet and told that, oh my gosh, you're just amazing. And then the three of us are considered kooks because we talk to spirits on a daily basis, and you can't do that. And it's like,
to take us away.
We cannot make these things up. I mean,
No.
people tell me, you're cold reading. I'm like, oh, really? So I was doing a reading for a woman, and her husband's spirit came through, and all of a sudden I saw an octopus. I go, octopus? And she goes, oh my God, that's always a good sign when you're doing a reading. And I said, okay, what's up with the octopus? Because I mean, he's like, sticking this octopus in my face. She said, well, we used to live in Belize, and we lived on a canal. And one morning we came out, and we had this tank that overlooked the canal. We'd catch lobsters and put them in the tank. And one morning, an octopus had climbed up out of the canal and was grabbing our lobsters. Do you think that's what my husband's referring to? I said, well, unless you have another octopus story, and wow. She was laughing. And all right, now if I was a puppy, all right, everybody's had a puppy at some point in life, but how many people have an octopus story? Why in heaven's name would I throw out something like that, hoping to get a hit?
Yeah, I know with my own readings, because I read in a totally different way, and I don't really do it much anymore, because my life is too much immersed on this radio station interviewing wonderful people like you. But when I used to do the readings, I would just say, I'm a map reader. All I'm doing is showing the paths before you, the options that you have, the possibilities that lay there. It's still your choice to walk it. And this is the thing, I think you're imparting information to them that can either clarify or lay a path before them, or clear something up or open up their mind to something, but they still got to take the ownership of taking the action or understanding where it goes further. This, like handing them a kit and saying it's all built, it's not the way. That's not what we're here for, is it?
No. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, and there's also a piece that I feel like, Mark, what you're touching on as well as Sarah, is the piece about the individual's willingness to work through their own process, to open up all their channels. And the more open the individual, right? It makes sense, right? Then the more we're able to connect, there's more kinesthetic connection, it's more visceral. And then the quote-unquote reading, because what I do is not a reading, and with Athella, it's unique, it's different from this process that we're talking about here. Everyone does it differently, right?
Yes, that's your gift.
We can go into this experience with our channels wide open. I think when we have clients like that, because the people I work with are extremely motivated, they're exceedingly open, and it's like, if I'm not, then what do I got to do to get there? And I want to change my life. I want to transform in a metamorphosis on every level. So Athella's healed people. Her thing is healing. So she does a lot of healing on physical bodies, emotional healing, and otherwise, and releasing. But a lot of the information, too, that comes forward is, again, it's not based in entertainment. And it's also not on our timing. So it's really literally
there is no timing.
Yeah.
There is no timing.
It's now time.
Oh, but I want to know this. I need to move up my reading. I want this.
Yes.
And if I don't get the answer to these 3 questions, and that's the problem. And then people get annoyed when, when my assistant or I will say, I'm sorry, but we're not going to do the session.
Yeah.
Because you don't come in and start issuing directives of how this is going to happen.
Right.
And a lot of people, they start this, how dare you charge money to do this?
Oh, yes.
A real medium would do it for free. Yes, well, a real medium doesn't live under a bridge, okay?
Right.
Been there, done that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yeah. And I wish I could, I was on Coast to Coast, and George Norrie asked me, well, don't you think mediums who do it for free kind of have more legitimacy, and I know George well enough. I knew that he was like, I said, well, George, as nice as it would be to slide down a rainbow on our unicorn into the Republic of Kumbaya, where everything is free, where the free sunshine makes the free vegetables grow, and people harvest them for free, and the trucks that ship them for free, and the stores that sell them for free, let alone the gasoline, which is a gift from God and comes from the earth, is free, and the house that I live in is free, and the mortgage company says, well, it's a gift from God, so you live for free. I said, unfortunately, we do not live in the Republic of Kumbaya.
Right.
And he goes, all right, Mark.
I get,
what I was going to say. It's like, and I remember there was a period of time in my life when I was practicing law full time, and I was doing readings, like on Thursday and Friday afternoons in my office. for people. That was interesting because my secretary would be like, she had two sets of calendars, one for the mediumship, one for that. And I did read
two different worlds.
I did them for free, and people, here's the response. Well, that was interesting. Interesting. Okay. Also, it became very clear to me that when the door opened and I went on this path, that this is what I had to do. And I had a medium in England explain to me, he says, they're not paying for your gift, they're paying for your time.
Yes.
Because if you weren't spending your time with them doing this, you would have to be spending your time doing something else to make a living, and people need to respect that. But you always get you should do this for free. It's like, really? What church operates for free?
Right. Yes.
I feel like the paradigm shift that's it's already taken place within you, Mark, because clearly, you have that, now you have that shielding, I guess is the best way to say it, that just says, well, this is the way that I operate, and there's a very clear understanding within about the exchange of time and service because it's an exchange of energy and money. And I don't even hear that kind of stuff, though. It doesn't even come into my field of consciousness about
it still comes into mind, obviously, because, I've just started, charging people to do shows, and it's just an administration fee, because each show, especially with the videos, it's 4.5 hour process. And if you cannot respect that time that I'm putting into it with an administrative fee, then maybe we're not on the right channel and I shouldn't represent you. Because it's been very interesting. I've had some people on here that are very big out there in the name, very big on TV and this and that. And when I said I'm now charging an administrative fee, oh no, I can't do that. All podcasts or all things should be free. Again, why? Why? So, obviously it means that that vibration is going in a different direction. And this is something that we have to look at. It kind of is sad because you really thought that person was on that same vibration. But if they cannot see that respect, then obviously they don't value your time. So why are you giving it? And that's something we really have to learn, isn't it, Mark? Why are we giving our time when people will abuse it? And if they can't pay for it, then they obviously, don't need it.
Energy is neither created nor destroyed, only transferred, and money can be viewed as a form of energy. So if you won't spend yours, how can you expect me to expend mine?
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you.
We as soon as we decide, really, because that's what it is, it's an inner decision that we're going to reprogram ourselves for wealth consciousness rather than lack consciousness or scarcity, then we've set ourselves up really well for life, because life is for us, and life doesn't care if we say we're going to be in a lack limitation consciousness or if we're going to be in a wealth limitation or wealth consciousness. It doesn't matter to life. Life is simply going to arrive and give us the situations that we're on the frequency of. I find that it's really cool too, the cycle, the water wheel, that the money, it happens that as we're giving it out, because Athella has a philanthropy program, we give it out, and then what comes in as well, and there's enough for all. So this belief that there's not enough, there's just not enough for everybody, and we've got to be stingy or greedy or squirrel away our money so that we hold on tight, is actually a constriction too. I think that's another great show to do as well, is like, the water wheel of wealth consciousness, and how actually allowing it, having that trust and faith, allowing it to go out, knowing that we're attracting clients that are coming to us that are in the same consciousness as us, is a great business model. And then of course we give, and the water wheel goes, it churns like this.
Well, good vibrations rise, right? And then people who are in that, good vibration want to be part of the dance.
Yes.
Part of the music. And so they're going to rise up their vibration, and it's going to be a contribution, back to that symphony, back to that beautiful orchestra. And when a band gets together and they play in sync, in collaboration with one another, that's the music they're bringing to us that elevates all of us. So this is what it's about.
Yes.
Well, in a practical sense, people don't realize what an energy drain making connections with the other side is to us. And like I'm on, when I go on tour, and I'm on tour right now, and people say, "Will you be doing private readings? Can you do one for me before you go on?" Excuse me, I'm going on before several hundred people, and I'll probably do like 20 or more readings, and they think, it's just like we're like a Pez dispenser that we just
turn on the tap.
Pez dispenser.
Start flicking out the little tic tacs of psychic,
Here's one for you,
it's like,
and one for you, and one for you.
It's like a battery. It runs down, and then it must be replenished, and we need some downtime. And people cannot be expecting me to do a reading the morning after I do a major event,
right?
Because it's a beautiful, wonderful gift. I thank God every single day to be the custodian of this, but it is mentally and physically and spiritually draining, and that's not a negative thing. It's like that's like expecting, all right, let's say Michael Phelps just did a whole Olympic meet, and expecting him to pop over after that and do another 100 laps in your pool so you can watch him do it.
Right.
People need to understand we need to recharge. Like I had a friend of mine who is an attorney, and she said, "Oh man, I really want to see you. I want to get a reading, and I know you got a 2-night event. So how about the day after the first event?" I said, "This is like asking you to do a week-long jury trial, and then after lunch throw in another trial before you go back to do it." She goes, "Oh my God, I couldn't do that." I go, and that's exactly what it's like, because when we're in the zone, and it feels great, because we get that wave, and woohoo, and it feels great and all that. But what happens is, it's an incredible surge of electromagnetic neural activity in our brain. Okay, so basically we're cranking up our brain. Think of your brain like an engine, and we're running it at full throttle. And you can only do that for so long before your neurotransmitters deplete and you become physically and mentally exhausted. And then you need time to recharge, relax, and then you can do it again. So these people that, how dare you charge money, and you need do this, and wham, 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 wham. Like, I had one person one time go, "Well, you should just do this for free because it's a gift from God." I said, "Well, what do you do for a living?" "Well, I work in this department store and I'm in customer service." I said, "Well, that's a gift from God because you have to put up with difficult people who demand and want things all day. So please give me your boss's name and I'll call him or her and tell them that because what you do is a gift from God, you're going to work for free for the next 8 years." "Well, I can't do that. I've got blah, 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 blah." And it's like, okay. Well, no, it's the same. I go, but it is.
It is.
But it is. And we're honoring our own gifts. So as we honor ourselves, that energy goes out, just like you were saying, Sarah. Energy begets more energy at that same quality and height of the vibration that you're putting out. So the output during your tours, I really commend you and applaud you then, Mark, that you are taking measures and precautions to keeping yourself cocooned, really, and in this serene space so that you're feeling freed up and not taking on these requests that I hear. It's an education for the general public, an education point.
Respect. Respect. We've been given a lovely gift, but we also got to remember something else. The universal energy. You talked about the quantum physics of the energy and the particles. That energy is infinite. Its magnitude is way beyond our human consumption. When that energy comes through us, our bodies can only take so much. This organic matter can only take so much before it is basically depleted. It comes through, the energy goes out to everybody, but then the body needs time to recharge because we can't operate on the same universal energy in this organic body. So you have to allow that downtime. You have to allow that time to rejuvenate. Otherwise you burn out. And we've seen this over and over again with people. Know your parameters. Know when to say no, and that's when you do get up there and do what you are here to do. You're going to do it far more profoundly and more in tune with who you are. And so many people make that mistake when they first start out. They think they've got to keep giving. Sure. Well, what happens to recharging?
Yes.
If you don't do
little
that,
boy, the little child also, Mark, in you, it's also something to be said, which is not often said, actually. It's not common knowledge, this, at all, that we need to recharge at the level of child, too, and allow for play and stretching, and getting fresh air.
Goofy.
Being goofy and silly and just being a goofball and letting all that, that energy, because, of course, when we're active, we're activated, and we're in our channeling states, we're also, of course, opened up completely. We're opening ourselves up in ways that we can't even describe. So we take on, and we could very well go through a mini movie, or these impressions that come for me, they fire in through impressions and I see them and then collectively come together, or I'll experience it on the body level. However you process information, also that needs to be, discharged.
Downloaded, yeah.
And then the little kid needs to come out and go, go skateboarding and have an ice cream.
And what people, and the reason that I say that, we need the downtime, because when I do the public events or the one-on-one readings, I want to make sure that I'm able to give the best reading possible for the recipients, because it's also a quality control issue. Because I don't want to say like, I need rest and I need money. It's like, well, I have a staff. People say, oh, well, you get all over the country and on these book tours. Guess what? Publishers do not pay for your book tours. Unless your name is J.K. Rowling or Stephen King, your publisher will not pay 1 cent. All these book tours, I have to finance, and then I have a staff. I've got people from New York to LA, and that may sound ritzy, but guess what? They don't work for free either. And so you got to keep this going, because yes, I have this service, this ability that I'm providing, but unfortunately we are living in the material world, and we have to deal with that.
I think it's very fortunate that we live in the material world. I believe that, again, we need to help people along here on this journey with abundance, because there can be literally so many paradigms about, so many negative statements and feelings and thoughts that we hold about money that cause us then to get into it with people, when really, in fact, this is really life. Life is abundant, and if you could step into that abundant nature, then there's more than enough for everyone. There's no limitation placed on us whatsoever. We work with a team too, and I very rarely have ever had someone ask it about, one or two people, like, oh, you work with an angel, well, that should be free. But really, on the whole, I take the opportunity, actually, I ride the opportunity to share with people about their abundant nature and, abundance in all forms, not just with money form, but also that they know that what they're communicating with, even the people on like social media, I'm sure we've all had this on social media, where they feel like you're indispensable, like the Pez dispenser, right? Like that you should be there to answer their messages or something like. So I have people who do that now for me, but I try as much as I can to get on social media myself. It's just interesting though to see how people sometimes, I think, just a little bit of more education, or as you say, Sarah, respect, and that goes a long way with them, and they really, oh, okay, yeah, this person.
Parameters. Everybody needs those parameters, because if not, you're going to get chewed up and spat out. And so we have to honor the vessel that we're in, because that's the gift that's been given to us for us to channel through the work that we do. And for anybody out there listening, and you'll see Mark doing the work he does, or Christina and Athella doing the work they do, understand it is a beautiful divine gift that they're giving. And, it is something really beautiful for you to receive, but understand that it does take energy. It does take a great deal of everything from them. Don't ask them to do anything else. They wouldn't. They're in their divine purpose. They're in their beautiful gift, doing what they love to do because they've been chosen to do it. But that doesn't mean that it has to be on 24/7. Everything needs a downtime to replenish, to renew. And again, if we don't step out and have our little fun time, then what we do is we become what we're here to do, and we've lost ourselves along the way, and that everything is about a balance. So having said that, Mark, my dear, where are you next? And how do people get hold of you? And if they do want a reading with you, how do they do that?
Well, thank you, Sarah. My website, evidenceofeternity.com. That way you can find out about my summer tour schedule and sign up for a reading. And please, for those who sign up for a reading, it says kindly read this entire page before filling out the form. Kindly read this entire page before filling out the form. Because what happens is people skip it and they ask all these questions that were already answered in the form. Because it'll let you know how I do things. Also, I'm a medium. I'm not a fortune teller.
Right.
Most people are looking for that. But this I'll be at the United Metaphysical Church of the Palm Beaches, June 1st and 2nd. I just kicked off my summer tour this weekend at Aquarian Dreams in Indialantic, Florida. Then I'm going to Palm Beach. Then I'll be headed to LA, and then I'll be going to the Unity of Dallas in July, along with the Vail Symposium in Vail, Colorado, and then I'll be doing a Circle of Light at For Heaven's Sake in Denver. And I'll also be at the Spirit Symposium, Love Never Dies, in Carlsbad, California, on August 19th, and that's a really special event. I'll be speaking at the Afterlife Research Education Institute in September, and also over Labor Day weekend, I'll be in Seattle at the IANS, International Association of Near-Death Studies, their 2018 conference. So that's just a few of the events that I'll be at, and if people want to find out about that or scheduling a reading with me, please visit evidenceofeternity.com.
Also, to see your books, Evidence of Eternity, Never Letting Go, catch your books there as well, because there's an awful lot to discover in there. And I also invite people to come back here to selfdiscoveryradio.com, simply put in your name, Mark Anthony, and you will see the show that he's done with us before. And I really invite you to come and listen to that, because we talked slightly different subject, more in depth of how it came to be. And Christina, let everybody know how they can find Athella.
Yes, you can find Athella and myself at athella.org. That's ATHELLA.org. And you can come to a retreat. You can take the leap, come into a retreat, and join us at the pyramids, the Mayan sacred sites. We go to underwater caves, and we do meditation retreats. We also swim with the dolphins, go out in the kayaks, and really change and transform in these intensive, power-intensive retreats. I also have a 3-month coaching and channeling program that Athella and I run, which is basically your fast track to changing your life in whatever form you want to change it to, rerouting these neural pathways. So there's a lot of neuroscience that's plugged into that. Or you can just have a private session, sit down with your guides, learn about your guides that are always around us and never leave us, and learn about how to channel. We have an online channeling course. The first part of it's free, and you can get all of these goodies on our website. And I'll also say that the movie that Athella and I are featured in, Tuning In, Angels and Aliens, is coming out August 8th, 2018, and it's going to be piloted for Netflix, I believe, so you'll be able to catch that. And we have a trailer now that's up on our website. It's a little teaser there that you can see. And I welcome you all. If this resonates with you, if Athella's light has been healing for you or someone you love, definitely come in and check it out. We also have free meditations and YouTube channel, all that good stuff. It's all at athella.org.
Excellent. And don't forget here, folks, selfdiscoveryradio.com. Share the show. There's other people that need to hear it. Yes. And, of course, what's coming up for us, too, is that we're now diverting off to our nonprofit organization, Self-Discovery Community. And you're going to be seeing some beautiful people that we interview contributing to a new book, an author's book, which will also be a fundraiser to afford the services from the wonderful people that we interview for people who can't afford them. So lots coming up. And, Mark, thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thank you, Mark.
It was my pleasure. I look forward to coming back. You guys are a lot of fun to work with.
So sweet.
Wonderful. Well, it's all about those good vibrations.
It is. High vibrations today. And I have to say, too, Mark, you are a very funny guy. I really like your sense of humor.
When you grow up as a little kid that sees dead people in an Italian Catholic family,
I
have a sense of humor. I mean,
The only way to survive, right? The only way to
territory.
survive.
I always say it's hard enough being a kid, but when you're a weird kid, it's even harder.
Oh, yeah. It takes one to know one. Definitely.
Oh, yes. We're all from the Twilight Zone, folks.
Imagine if you will.
Well, thank you, Mark, and of course Christina and Athella again, and of course we're back next week with the Reverend on Reverend Charles Edwardus with our identity, how to actually identify our beautiful souls and spirits. So come back to us at Channeling Ascension here on Self Discovery Radio every week, folks, and you'll discover some other beautiful, illuminating knowledge to lift your spirit and soul and heart. So thank you very much, folks. Until next time, bye for now.
For more wonderful shows like this, please go to selfdiscoveryradio.com, podcasts, and see our lineup. And if you wish to support us, we have a funded button. Please stay tuned for our next show.